Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel. So in this video I'm going to be going over 20 movies that were first time watches for me from last year, 2024. These are movies that I don't think I've talked about before in any other videos I've done, maybe except Blu-ray pickups for the Blu-rays. But other than that, I had a blast with all 20 of these films. These 20 films stuck out to me. They were first time watches and I wanted to talk about them in this video. So yeah, like I said, 10 DVDs, 10 Blu-rays. So yeah, let's get started. So the first movie I've picked is a movie with Marlon Wayans and David Spade. I think this is from the sort of mid to late 90s. And it is a movie called Senseless.
Well, since you're the only person, after the experiment's over, you get $3,000.
$3,000? Woo!
So yeah, this is a lot of fun. It's a bit of a weird comedy. Probably seen some of these comedies sort of from the same era at the same time. It pretty much follows Marlon Wayans, who is given an opportunity at this university, a very sort of up its own arse university, to test out a drug that will enhance his senses and make him perform better at this college. But there is a massive come down once the sort of the serum works off. It's a good movie. It's a fun time. I really enjoyed it. David Spade is pretty much David Spade in this movie as well. Rip Torn's pretty good in it as well. It's just a fun movie. Really enjoyed it. Brad Dourif as well as like the scientist who like creates the serum. Yeah, really fun film. So that is Senseless. So coming up next, I've got two films sort of off this DVD label called The Lost Collection. I had a blast with one of these movies in particular, but the first movie, really enjoyed this. Keanu Reeves, Laura Lowton, and it is a movie called The Night Before.
And because I lost this bet, I have to go to the biggest dance of the year with, with someone I wouldn't normally go with.
So this is, again, there's another movie called The Night Before, which was kind of like a Christmas movie with Seth Rogen, but it's one of these movies where, you know, two movies have the same title, but this one, really different premise. I really enjoyed it. So Laura Lowton is pretty much like a popular girl at school, and she loses a bet and ends up having to go on a date with Keanu Reeves. And things seem to be going pretty well. Keanu Reeves is like really happy to be on this date, pretty much for this prom that they're going to. But what ends up happening is she ends up getting kidnapped on the night of the prom. And we pretty much spend the entire night with Keanu Reeves trying to retrace his steps and pretty much trying to find her, trying to get her back. It's a fun movie. I really enjoy it. It's daft, it's silly, it's over the top. It doesn't really hold up so much in terms of the competence of the film, but I had a good time with it. I just enjoyed it, and I was glad to see it on this label. Really enjoyed it. So that is The Night Before. So coming up next is by far one of the best films I saw for the first time last year. I really enjoyed this film. It stars John Cryer and it is called Hiding Out. So yeah, it's on the same label, The Lost Collection. Man, I don't know what to say. This movie really impressed me. I just enjoyed it. Great soundtrack, great premise. The premise, I'll say the premise, but you may think that sounds an awful lot like Sister Act. Yeah, John Cryer is pretty much, he's got this job and he witnesses this crime. And Witness Protection Act, because he's still got his youthful looks in this movie, he shaves his beard and he ends up going with his cousin back to school. And he kind of he's just there to, you know, be under witness protection. But what makes this movie different is he kind of shakes things up a bit while he's at school. Teachers are very much, you know, set on what they want to teach in the class, but he's just having absolutely none of it. He's not swallowing some of the American political history lessons. He kind of shakes up and tells it how it is and thinks that people in the classroom shouldn't really be learning this because it's not correct, in his opinion. And he ends up sort of having an influence on other students. there is a romance in there, and it does do that cliche of the liar reveal in movies where the main character is hiding a secret and the love interest finds out. But this movie does it differently. When the love interest finds out, they kind of actually use it to the advantage of the plot of the film. It just really, really worked for me, and I absolutely loved it. I thought it was fantastic. Please, 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 can this hopefully get a Blu-ray release? It is a hidden gem of a film. I adore this movie. So yeah, that's Hiding Out. I'd go as far to say as I probably enjoyed it a little bit more than Pretty in Pink, to be honest. But yeah, coming up next, we've got Damon Wayans in Major Pain.
Now you salute me.
No. You hit that boy again, I'm gonna do more than salute you.
So yeah, this again, another comedy from the 90s. Enjoyed this one. It follows Damon Wayans, who pretty much plays this very elite sort of drill sergeant in the movie. And he finds himself out of a job, and he ends up having to take what is available to him. So he ends up sort of looking after these kids in this movie. It's fun, it's daft, it's over the top. It's got some good character actors in there as well. Michael Ironside has a small role in the movie. The Shermanator from American Pie it's a young early role for him. But yeah, I enjoyed this one. It was daft silly comedy. It was a good time, so that's Major Pain. Next up is we've got another movie that really, really impressed me, and I was surprised to see who directed this. It stars Sean William Scott, and it is Just Before I Go.
I was such a dick. A huge dick. I mean, like the biggest dick. Mother of all dicks, for sure. I think about it all the time, too, you know.
So yeah, what really took me off guard was this was directed by Courtney Cox of Friends and Scream fame. But yeah, this had some real meaning to it in this movie. It follows Sean William Scott, who is pretty much kind of at the end of his tether. And it sounds quite dark, but he's ready to sort of end his own life in this film. But before he wants to do it, he wants to go back to his hometown and try and make amends with things. Try and patch things up. He was bullied at school, and he wants to confront his bully and tell him how he feels. That's what really stuck with me in the movie, is that when he actually goes to see his bully isn't what he expected. And that's all I'll say, because I think if you haven't seen this movie, give it a go. But it really changes his perspective. It was really good. I just absolutely loved this film. There's more to it than that as well. There's stuff going on with his family. I really thought this was a solid film. So yeah, that's Just Before I Go. Next up, we've got probably one of the weakest movies on this list, but I still enjoyed it. I had a good time with the cast. Jennifer Aniston, Steve Zahn, and that is Management.
You can't do one more night. Just
I have meetings this afternoon in Seattle.
blow them off and just stay for a while.
It's my job.
So yeah, you've also got Woody Harrelson in this as well. It follows Steve Zahn, who's pretty much working at this sort of motel that his parents own. Fred Ward was great in the movie as well, as I think Steve Zahn's dad. But yeah, and Jennifer Aniston ends up sort of staying over in this motel, and he just falls madly in love with her. And it just sounds really bad, but he becomes obsessed with her, and she pretty much says to him, like, I'm not going to be up for this, because I'm with my job, I'm traveling all the time. So pretty much a relationship is out of the question. But he is so persistent in this movie, doesn't give up, despite everything that he's told. It was a daft, dark comedy, but I still enjoyed it. I thought it was a lot of fun, so yeah, that's Management. Next up, we've got a movie with Matthew Lillard, kind of a difficult one to get hold of here in the UK, and it is SLC Punk.
I love you guys. Don't get me wrong. It's all about this. But for the first time in my life, I'm 18 and I can say, fuck you!
So again, great cast, really enjoyed it, a lot of fun. It sort of follows Matthew Lillard, who is, as the title would suggest, a punk in this movie, has some very sort of rebellious ideologies. But what the movie sort of focuses on is these ideologies he has to sort of put them to the test, because time's running out for him. things aren't really going his way. They're not really sort of, you know, he doesn't really have much options in life. So he has to kind of live by the sword that he's got for himself with these ideologies. I really liked it. It was a fun movie. It was a good drama as well. Well written. Got some really good dialogue in here. But yeah, I thought this was a cracking film. So that is SLC Punk. Next up, we've got another comedy here. And yeah, this had pretty much a great cast to it as well. Freddie Prinze Jr., Jason Biggs. I think Alison Halligan had a small role in this as well. And it is Boys and Girls.
You're Ryan, right?
Yeah.
Hey!
Hey.
I'm Hunter.
Hey.
You're your roomie, Hunter.
What were you doing in the trunk?
One of these college movies that was just so daft. I think it was sort of capitalizing on the American Pie fame as well. Even had some of the same cast in there. But again, one of these late 90s, early 2000 comedies that is just kind of throwaway and just didn't really take off. But I liked it. It was a good time. I have a soft spot for these types of movies. I absolutely love them. And yeah, I just adore movies of this caliber from this era. So yeah, that's Boys and Girls. Kind of from a similar vein to that now, definitely cut from the same cloth with that genre, we have Fired Up.
I'm going to push you like you've never been pushed before. Your muscles will ache, your head will throb. You're going to shit blood out of holes you never knew you had.
So yeah, this is one of these raunchy teen sex college movie comedies that, again, I don't really see a lot of people talk about. It sort of follows two guys who are on the football team and they decide, you know what, to get with women, let's just forget joining the football school and we'll join the cheerleading school instead, because it is pretty much going to be 99% women. And yeah, it's just about them spending time at this campus with all these females. Yeah, it's as daft as it sounds. It's exactly what you would think it is on the tin. But I enjoyed the movie. It had heart to it. It had a charm to it. It wasn't awful. And I just enjoyed it. So, yeah, that's Fired Up. And the last DVD I've got here is, I've got to give a shout out to my good friend Nige over at Rock God 2004 for recommending this. This movie was brutal. Brutal in parts for a TV movie. And it is Citizen X. So yeah, this again was not the easiest of movies to get hold of. I think it was only a US DVD that we've had released, so I managed to get hold of a copy of it. And yeah, this is a really, really good serial killer movie, but it is not for the faint of hearted. It's, like I said, it is brutal. It doesn't hold back. The killings in this movie sort of, yeah, it doesn't really show away or sugarcoat it. It is brutal. It's not all throughout the movie. Those scenes do pop up here and there, but it is very, very much drama driven. And it's got a great cast in it as well. Stephen Rea, Donald Sutherland. Really, really good cast. But yeah, it's a brutal movie in parts. So yeah, that is Citizen X. So yeah, moving on to 10 of the Blu-rays now. First one we've got here is a horror film from the late 80s. I really enjoyed this, starring Will Wheaton, and that is The Curse.
That's it, James. Go. Move. Do it. Yeah!
So yeah, this is a Spanish release of this movie. It sort of follows Will Wheaton and sort of the family he's been stuck with, who sort of work on this farm. Yeah, I thought this was a fantastic film. I really, really enjoyed it. Great setting. Just love the farm setting in this film, but it's got some creepy, creepy moments to it as well. Some good characters. Definitely one worth checking out if you're a horror fan. It's not the scariest film you're ever going to see, not by a long shot, but I enjoyed it, to say the least. So that is The Curse. Next up, we've got a mid-80s sort of thriller with Roger Moore, Absolutely loved it. Rod Steiger, Elliot Gould in The Naked Face.
Is something the matter?
Yes, one of my patients was murdered today.
Jesus, what happened?
Well, I saw him this morning. It was raining, so I leaned in my raincoat. And a few minutes later, he was stabbed to death on the street.
So yeah, again, this movie was made pretty much between Roger Moore's penultimate and last James Bond outing. And yeah, it's a good suspenseful little thriller. Really, really enjoyed it. Like I said, great cast. Roger Moore is very, very much the heartbeat of this movie. It sort of follows him as this doctor who's kind of being set up and sort of targeted for murder. Really, really enjoyed it. It was powerhouse performances to it. It's not an amazing film by any means, but it gets the job done. But yeah, I enjoyed it nonetheless. So that is The Naked Face. Next up, we've got a movie which I had an absolute blast doing a watch along with this with Nige, and also Keith of Euphoria Pictures, who recommended this film. We sat down, three of us watched it, and we had an absolute blast. And that is Mindhunters.
A lot of the old guard here don't believe in my methods. A lot of them think I'm crazy. You're a privileged group. You're all smarter, you wouldn't be here. I just want you to be smarter.
So yeah, fantastic cast and a fantastic premise. Absolutely loved this one. Caught me by surprise with the way the movie went, and that's all I'll say about it, because this movie deserves to go... You deserve to go into this blind, because I really, really benefited from that with the direction that the movie took. But like I said, great cast. Sort of following a group of sort of investigators who are pretty much like elite. They're at the top of their game, and they end up going to this island to try and figure out this murder that's been going on there. And yeah, that's all I'll say about it. It just escalates from there. Really, really enjoyed it. Yeah, underrated movie. So that is Mindhunters. Next up, we've got a fun movie again from the mid-80s. Very much sort of in the same vein as Hiding Out. But yeah, this has got a great cast. C. Thomas Howell, Laura Loughton, Kelly Preston, and again Fred Ward. And that is Secret Admirer.
Hey, beautiful. Want to ride?
No thanks, Steve. I'll just walk. Oh, Michael, you're so mature.
Yeah, a fun 80s movie. Really, really enjoyed it. It's very consequential, this movie. There's a lot going on to be discussed, but yeah, it sort of follows a love triangle that's going on, and C. Thomas Howell gets this letter from a secret admirer, as the title would suggest, but this letter finds itself in multiple people's hands, and it leads to some what could be potentially devastating outcomes. Like, this letter ruins people's lives, but the movie plays it for comedy. It was just quite dark to see something like this get played in such a humorous way. But I loved it all the same. It had a lot of, those sort of early, fresh-faced 80s actors that you see that would go on to be supporting characters in other movies like Back to the Future. I just had a fun time with this one, despite, how daft it was. So that is Secret Admirer. Next up, we've got a really fun action movie from the early 90s, and that is The Perfect Weapon. Yeah, really, really good, underrated martial arts movie with some great action set pieces in this. Really, really enjoyed it. It sort of follows the main character, who is pretty much kind of reserved about how he uses his, the martial arts skills that he has because of an incident that actually happened years prior. And yeah, it's sort of about him having to take on this sort of evil gang in this movie. There's nothing sort of groundbreaking to it, but the way the movie's shot and the action set pieces really, really do make it. I think this is free on YouTube as well if it hasn't been taken down yet. So if you want to give it a go there before you buy it, please do check it out, because it's a fun action movie. I really enjoyed it. Pretty good cast to it as well. And yeah, just thought it was a good, solid, entertaining film. So that is The Perfect Weapon. Next up, I've got to give a shout out to Carlos, Eastwood fan for life, for recommending this to me. I really enjoyed watching Miami Vice for the first time. I watched that show in its entirety last year. And I was on a bit of a Don Johnson kick. And he recommended this film to me. I think this is from the late 80s. And it is dead bang.
This is kidnapping, Beck. Are you aware of this, that this is kidnapping?
No. Kidnapping's a felony. This is just a little favor.
Yeah, really enjoyed this one. It was kind of came out at the time where Don Johnson was wanting to sort of leave and break away from Miami Vice, kind of season 4 or 5, round about that time, and get into films. But I don't think Don Johnson got his dues when it came to movies. Yeah, he was in movies here and there, but just nothing that was sort of sticking with people. And I gave this one a go. I enjoyed it. I thought it had a good cast, a good premise. It follows him in this town. Shit's going down. And it's kind of sort of him battling these sort of neo-Nazis in the movie. I thought it was great. Really good action movie. Really good supporting cast as well. Yeah, I just thought it was a fun, dumb action film. But yeah, it was good to see Don Johnson in the lead. So yeah, that is dead bang. Next up, we've got a movie with Burt Reynolds. I really enjoyed this one, and it is Smokin Machine.
Oh my God! I'm shot!
So yeah, a good, fantastic action movie again. Great to see Burt Reynolds sort of in a bit of a grittier movie as well. This kind of feels like one of these 80s cop movies, but a bit of an earlier one, bit of a blueprint for it. But yeah, it was just a good, solid film. Really enjoyed it. Burt Reynolds, absolutely fantastic in the role. You absolutely root for him. It's just a great 80s cop movie that doesn't really get its praises sung all that much. It's definitely one worth checking out. I thought it was great. So that is Smokin Machine. Next up, we've got a comedy from the early 80s. I want to say 1984. I had a good time with this one. By no means, it's far from a perfect movie, but it was just fun. Really enjoyed the cast in this one. Judd Nelson, and it is Making the Grade.
I'll cover your monthly expenses, and there's a $5,000 bonus once I get my diploma.
$5,000?
All right, $10,000, but that's it.
So yeah, again, another sort of premise for this type of college movie. It sort of follows this young lad here who has got everything in life that you possibly could want. He's been born with a silver spoon in his mouth. Everything's been put on a silver platter for him. But his dad, who's like the businessman, kind of sounds a bit like Billy Madison, pretty much says to him, right, you've got to go back and graduate from university. Otherwise, you aren't going to inherit anything or get the business or anything like that. So he decides that instead of doing that, he would rather pay someone who needs the money to go to college and pretend to be him and graduate for him. And that's where Judd Nelson comes into it, who is pretty much in serious debt. He's like 50 grand in debt. And he takes this opportunity with both hands. And yeah, I enjoyed the movie. It was fun. It was daft. It was silly. It had some good music in it, some daft moments that you just wouldn't get in movies today. I absolutely really enjoyed this one. It was a movie to cherish because you just know these movies are a product of the time and just aren't going to be made again. So it was a fun one. That's Making the Grade. Next up, we've got another mid-80s movie. I enjoyed this one, and it is The Heavenly Kid.
Got a train to catch.
You from out of town?
Yeah, you can say that.
Look, I want to thank you.
Sure thing.
Wait, I don't even know your name.
So yeah, again, a good premise to this one. It sort of starts off in the 50s where it follows a couple who the male is pretty much a sort of dragster. He's like a greaser. He pretty much looks like something out of Grease, straight up. But yeah, it follows him. He's in this race at the beginning of the movie, and he's killed in the car crash. But in order to get into heaven, they decide, you know what, you aren't going to get into heaven just yet. You have to sort of make a difference on Earth first. So pretty much the deal is you've been assigned to a young lad who isn't really doing too well. It goes forward to the 80s by about 30 years from his death, and it says, yeah, we found someone. You need to look after him. You need to sort of put him on the right track and make his life better, make a difference to his life, and then you'll get your wings. You'll get access to heaven. And I really, really enjoyed it. It's a bit daft. I think from that premise you can kind of see where things are going, and that's where the movie does go. But yeah, I really, really enjoyed it. It was a delight. It was a bit of a breath of fresh air to see a movie like this. Again, to go back, watch an undiscovered gem from the 80s, and just have an absolute ball with it. So I recommend this one if you can get hold of it, and that is The Heavenly Kid. And the last movie I've got here now is, again, another movie from the early 2000s. It doesn't have a release over here in the UK, so I had to get the American one. This stars Jason Biggs, Steve Zahn, Jack Black, and Amanda Peet in Saving Silverman.
Hey! Thanks for meeting me here. I have something really important to tell you guys.
Oh, man, you broke up?
No.
So yeah, a good, fun comedy again, with you would expect with the talent and the names attached to this film. It sort of follows three friends who weirdly are in a Neil Diamond tribute act. And one of them, played by Jason Biggs, he gets a girlfriend played by Amanda Peet. But for lack of a better term, his two friends see the relationship for what it is. Jason Biggs is completely pussy whipped in this relationship. And the two friends, Jack Black, Steve Zahn, just want him back. They just want that relationship over, and they want him back because they just know it's not good for either person involved. And that's pretty much the movie. It's fun, it's dumb, it's daft, but again, it has charm, it has likability. I really, really enjoyed it. There's a moment in this where it has the drill sergeant from Full Metal Jacket, Neil Diamond himself, and pretty much the cast of this movie all in a van, and I was like, this is some weird fever dream right now that's happening. Whoever dreamed this up and wrote it down on paper, it just sounds nuts. And then to see it on screen, it was a really, really surreal moment in the film when you think about it. But yeah, I really enjoyed this one. It was a great comedy. Yeah, it was a fun time. So that is Saving Silverman. So yeah, guys, those are the 21st time watchers that I thought were definitely worth talking about, that I watched for the first time in the year 2024. So yeah, let me know if you've seen any of these movies. Do you plan on seeing them? Has watching this video piqued your interest in any of these titles? I'd be interested to know. So yeah, go leave the video there, guys, and say thanks very much for watching. Stay safe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.